Hey, hi, how are you? My name's Phil. Welcome back to another edition of Yoshi Keeps Me Employed, aka there was another big Deadlock update. Oh boy, this one looked sizable the second it came out. I don't think you can see my clock at the moment, but I'm recording this 15 minutes after it came out, so this is very fresh impressions here, so let's get started with talking about it. Base HP reduced by 10, and HP per boon reduced by 3. We're still working on making everyone's health go down and probably just speeding up gameplay flow. That's interesting. Guardian scaling resistance from plus 75 to minus 50% over 12 is now plus 50 to minus 50. So it just takes more damage early, but goes to the same level late. Interesting choice. I think it's just to make the laning phase go a little bit faster, which is ironic with this next change, but also then ironic again. Medium neutral's initial spawn time is reduced from 6 minutes to 5 minutes, meaning they show up sooner, which makes side lanes less fight over small camps, I guess. But then the breakables, so boxes and statues, don't spawn till 3 minutes now, which is a minute later, which means that running and boxing early isn't a thing anymore, so now lane-based characters are going to be a lot stronger. I'd be scared of like Mirage and Apollo for the next little bit unless this gets changed again, but it's interesting. It means that the side with the small minion camp gets a tiny farm advantage early before the 3-minute mark where breakables spawn. This is interesting. I don't know how this will play out. Shrines are now invulnerable until one pair of base guardians are destroyed. Rip Wallbreaker Victor. Long live Wallbreaker Victor. I mean, the character's still going to do what they do, but it's going to be less obnoxious because it's going to be less, oh, we could do this for free before we've even destroyed base guardians. Backdoor removal linger duration reduced from 20 to 14. I guess they're making it so the backdoor protections linger for less time. I think that's how this is supposed to work, but we'll see. Knockup durations are not affected by debuff reduction. Oh my god, debuff reducer is actually going to feel better now. That's just like a stat. That's nice. Move 2 jump pads from around the middle of the map that point outwards to the left and right respectively. I think these are the ones that go to mid buffs. So that basically means if you're in mid lane, you're not contesting like the bridge buffs as easily as quickly. You have to like actually walk and take the rope up to the bridge buff, I think. Sliding no longer resets sprint speed. Odd patch note. I think this actually just slows us down overall. But we'll see. It could actually speed us up. I could be misinterpreting it. In the comments, yell at me about how wrong I am and that it's clearly a buff. Stamina regeneration is reduced by 25% for 5 seconds after using a wall jump. This does not trigger when out of combat or when mantling soon after. This is to make it harder for people to just get away with super high-skilled move tech, but it's also going to make it so that you're not hurt when just running around the map out of combat. Out of combat is a lot easier to trigger than you think. It's only a couple of seconds out of combat, I believe, so if you get away and they're not shooting you, you already have this back to the way that it used to be. Bullet velocity now stacks additively rather than diminishingly. Interesting. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. But now I guess if you're going multiple bullet velocity items, then they're slightly better. Medic Trooper heal duration increased. So it heals the same, but it takes twice as long now. Jesus. Receiving multiple of the Medic Trooper orb, the duration will be now added on top rather than stacking directly. So picking 4 up in a row will regen over 16 seconds instead of over 4 seconds. Goodness. So it'll heal you, but it won't be near as fast. This is an effort to speed up the game, I think, because it makes it so that if you pick up a thing, you're not immediately back to full health. You're slowly regenning, so people will still want to fight you, probably. But they did buff the heal to compensate for the slow heal time, so that's nice. Fixed parry effects not always matching state. We like when they fix bugs like this. It makes parries feel better. Base Guardian bullet resist increased. Shrine bullet resist increased. T2 bullet resist increased. Gee, I wonder if they're trying to counteract Wallbreaker Victor styles of play / Wallbreaker Wraith styles of play. Mid-boss now starts spawned at the beginning of the game. That's crazy. If you want to do mid-boss at minute 5, go for it, I guess. Total damage reductions now stacked diminishingly rather than additively, so Inhibitor and Fire Scarabs aren't going to be as busted. That's fine. Move speed diminish point increased from 11 to 12. Very slightly less aggressive diminishing scaling. So you can get a little faster than you used to, but not by much. All right, I'm re-recording this a little bit because I misinterpreted this, but also this is still a really big deal. So all of these are getting an additional breakpoint. It is not changing the original breakpoint. Like the 4.8K and the 4.8K are still 46 weapon investment bonus, right? But now, in place of just being 7.2, 9.6, 16, it's now 6.4, 8, 11.2, 16. So we're adding more breakpoints, which actually is going to spice up how you do builds now. Because, for example, the vitality investment bonus, which matters a lot for a character like Mina with really low base HP, will get a lot better for them, because having two 3,200 items on Mina means that now you're getting that 42% health bonus, when before you had to get to 7.2k to get to that 42% health bonus. It also looks like it's kind of a tiny nerf to weapon investment again. Very small nerf to weapon investment again, but they've been trying to drag weapon investment down for a while. The restructuring for spirit investment looks like more of an adjustment than a buff or a nerf from glancing at it. 9.6 giving you 57 spirit power to 11.2 giving you 59 is kind of a nerf, but at 16k you get 66 from either one, so it seems overall to be not that crazy for spirit, and the big difference is weapon is getting slight nerfs across the board, and vitality is kind of getting buffs across the board, because being able to hit these breakpoints easier will help vitality-based characters. The final two tiers are shifted up by +4 is interesting, and it means that max vitality investment will be even better now, but I think that's to do with the way that they nerfed base HP. This is really interesting. This will change how builds work a good amount. People have to basically rework builds from the ground up. I know all of my builds from all my videos. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to redo a lot of them, but hey, ever-evolving game, am I right? All right, actually moving on this time, fixed various items, barrier durations not scaling with duration. Walkers will now interrupt a rocket barrage during the 1 second windup if stomp becomes an option. So stomps will actually matter a little bit more, it seems. Fixed a bug where walkers were spinning while lasering. Smooth zipline grabbing to fix some jitter. Added ropes to zipline binding, so if a player rebinds zipline to something other than space, will also apply to mounting, dismounting ropes. That's cool. This is just nice for people who are doing really custom keybinds for any number of reasons. And removing the delay. This is really, really helping. This is just helping people. This is making the game more accessible to people. Okay, fix the following abilities taking out of zoom temporarily when cast. Blasted, Gloomblom, Shining Wonder, Call Bell, Luggage Cut, Stalker's Mark, Rejuvenating Aura, Charge Shot, Powder Keg, Bounce Pad, Spirit Lasso, Napalm, Ice Path, Flog, Spectral Wall, Rake, Fire Scarab, Scorn, Sandblast, Time Wall, Paradoxical Swap, Barrage, Flying Cloak, Pillow Toss, Lightning Bolt, Entangling Bola. Go for the Throat, Vexing Will, Consecrating Grenade, Gut Shot, Snap Trap, Hero Domini, Pain Battery, Jumpstart, Flight, Crow Familiar, Lethal Venom, Petrifying Bola, Alchemical Flask, Cartridge Capacitor, Restorative Locket, Healing Nova, Silence Wave, Magic Carpet, and Refresher. So basically, it's a giant thing across the board to now make it so that you can stay zoomed while using abilities. Accessibility change, we like it. Just the following items and abilities not working through Veils. Heroic Aura, Healing Riot, Healing Nova, Rescue Beam, Divine Barrier, Kudzu Connection, Cube, Tag Along, Little Helpers, Guardian Ward, Scourge, Plot Armor. This is basically just, even though you can't see them, the game should still recognize your teammate is there, and you should still be able to help them with stuff. Soul Urn. Oh no. We are experimenting with an alternate set of urn mechanics. Please give us your thoughts after you've played with it some. Goodness gracious. To pick up the urn, rather than standing in place to channel, you now light or heavy melee the urn to pick it up. The urn is now always dropped off on top of the bridge on the middle of the map. So the very center of the map, directly above mid-boss, I'd assume. Once dropped off, the urn will go into a depositing phase for a set amount of time, depending on which team the urn favors. 3 seconds for favored, 10 seconds for unfavored. Wow, 10 seconds for unfavored? Goodness, this makes urn a really big fight over, by the way, because everyone can get to the middle of the map really fast. While in the depositing phase, the enemy team can heavy melee the urn to have their team claim it and cause it to switch sides. This adds 0.125 seconds to that team's timer. The urn is favored or unfavored in a comeback state, then the favored team will get plus 50% bullet and spirit resist in a 60-meter radius around the urn while it's being carried, dropped, or deposited. Oh my goodness. So this just makes it so that if you're favored to pick up the urn, the game is giving you just the biggest buffs in the world. And on top of that, it now is a channel that lasts a really short amount of time, but it means that this will probably be fought over very, very heavily, and there'll be a lot of punching back and forth and a lot of parrying. Hope you like rebuttal. After 35 seconds, aggregate time held per team, the carrier will start taking 5% max HP damage per second. Previously it was 45 seconds and 0.15% max HP. Yeah, that's a huge change. So this means that it used to be that you could just grab the urn and hold it and run away with it and cause problems with it, and overall that it wouldn't be that big of a deal because you'd be taking 0.15% max HP damage per second. Now it is 5%, and it starts 10 seconds sooner. Urn damage is lethal. Like before, when the urn is fumbled, it'll wait 13 seconds if there's no player within 25 meters. However, afterwards, the new version can no longer be picked back up anymore and will very quickly run back to its spawn position. So there's now a 13-second timer of if you don't grab the urn, it's gone back to its spawn. No longer silenced, but you are disarmed and movement silenced. I'm assuming that means movement abilities can't be used. No longer grants 30% bullet and spirit as res while carrying it, but that's probably because you're getting the 50% if you're a favored team. Area around depositing the urn is revealed. Urn runner is also revealed as usual. The rules for favored unfavored remain the same, which is good. Souls are all instant. We can no longer steal souls, so actually getting the urn and securing the urn is more important than ever. All rewards are the same. Last person to contest the urn gets the 3 golden idol buffs, falling back to the original carrier if nobody contested it. Oh my goodness, what a what a giant pile of changes. I think it sounds cool and makes urn something to actually fight over for lower level lobbies, and makes lower level play easier to get into the urn because now teams won't easily be able to just sneak it across the middle of the map and deposit it before the team can rotate over to the other side. Now it's kind of everyone's going to congregate in the middle, fight over it, try and punch it back and forth between teams. As a concept, and just reading this before I've even logged into the game, this sounds cool, this sounds fun, and I am decently down with it. I might add in another little note here if I play this and decide it's not very good, but for now, this sounds cool. Alright, this is Fel coming at you after recording most of the patch note videos, but after playing like 5 different games on this patch. I think that the new urn system is actually pretty cool, but it is incredibly punishing for a team that has a disadvantaged urn situation. What do I mean by that? I mean that this is really easy to group up on and fight over. You get characters like Graves up here throwing down everything under the sun. How are you going to ever deposit that urn? Especially if that Graves is super ahead of you, right? It requires the whole team to get there, but then we're just kind of going into a Death Ball-y meta, where it all depends on these big, super cool teamfight ultimates in order to win games out. Now, overall, I think it's a lot more fun in the early to mid game. I think they need to find a bit of a middle ground where there's more than just this one altar to deliver it to. That there is one that is like, I don't know, where that truck is over there, or where that truck is over there, for example, in terms of putting it slightly closer to the other team's spawn so that they have an easier time depositing it in the late game if they are behind. Because right now, if you're behind in the late game, you can't sneak an urn anymore by any stretch of the imagination because you have to come this far out to get it. So overall, I think it's pretty cool so far, but it needs some help. Items changes. Added a new T1 Vitality item, Grit, active item that grants you 200 barrier for 4 seconds, and 8 grants 1 out of combat regen, cooldown 60 seconds. Interesting. It also turns into Reactive Barrier. It upgrades to Weapon Shielding, Spirit Shielding, and Guardian Ward. So they're basically going, if you want to get any of the shielding items, you can get this active item that just grants you 200 barrier. I think this is going to be busted. I think 200 barrier for free whenever you want to push the button on an 800 Vitality item is a little too good, considering Guardian Ward is barely double that at default, I think, but hey, we'll see how this item goes in practice. Resto Shot, slight buff. Melee Charge, slight buff on the cooldown. Active Reload, slight buff with the lifesteal. Weakening Headshot now works versus NPCs. Interesting. Fleetfoot now... Oh, no. Oh, we did not need a Fleetfoot buff. Fleetfoot has fallen out of meta decently because of various reasons. Giving it 6% weapon damage is going to make 7 a very happy camper. 7 already buys Fleetfoot most games. Wraith might start buying Fleetfoot again too because of the 6% weapon damage. It's just one of those things where it's just any amount of damage on the item makes it look better. Because it's already good, gives you a massive amount of slow resist by default. It gives you a solid move speed. You're not slowed down while firing. And now it's giving weapon damage. That I'm a little concerned, but we'll see how the item pans out. Opening round, spirit power reduced. Hate to see it, but item is still very strong. I don't think this will stop people from buying it. It'll just make it weaker. Slowing bullets, very slight nerf. Mystic Shot, increased in spirit scaling, a slight buff to Mystic Shot. Recharging Rush, nerf on a cooldown. Tesla bullets, a little buff on the cooldown. It'll now proc a 0.05 second faster. It'll proc every 0.2 seconds instead of every 0.25 seconds. So instead of 4 times a second potential procs, it's now instead of being only 4 times per second, potentially it's up to 5 times potentially, which is a buff. Alkfire got a slight buff to its spirit scaling. Ballistic enchantment now upgrades from Mystic Expansion. Okay. That's interesting. Because this is a purple item that's upgrading, or the Mystic Expansion is purple, turning into an orange. This is the first time we've seen that, I'm pretty sure, in the current iteration of the game. That's interesting. We'll see how that goes. I think there's definitely a possibility for that to be really interesting and cool, but I don't quite get it. I think this will excite people like Geist, probably, who put it on their Essence Bomb. But, like, I don't think Venator will care that much, because Venator, if they would buy Ballistic Enhancement, they would just buy the full item late game. I don't know. It's interesting. It might just be a way for them to try and make it so that range isn't as linear as you always go Mystic Expansion into Greater Expansion on, like, every character that wants range. And they're giving gun-based characters a little bit of leeway. I don't know. We'll find out. Weighted shots. Dash distance slow reduced. Weighted shots debuff resistance increased. Slight nerf, slight buff. Shadow Weave. Bunch of buffs. Duration up, ambush fire rate up, ambush spirit power up, ambush melee damage up. Clearly the item is not being bought still, and they're trying to figure out what would make it good. Escalating resilience, very slight weapon damage buffs, and max ammo buffs. Probably fine for the item, it's not seeing much play. Heroic aura, slight buff to the aura. Interesting. Sharpshooter now upgrades from high velocity rounds in addition to long range, and grants bullet velocity. Long range weapon damage reduced from 70% to 60% though, and now has an innate 10% weapon damage, but no one will buy this item still because it makes you slow. Hunter's Aura got a slight buff to the fire rate reduction it gives. We're rebuffing Cultist Sacrifice weapon damage and weapon damage boon scaling and the bonus souls again. Toxic Bullets no longer builds up from melee attacks. This is kind of a direct nerf to Drifter, because they would be able to proc it faster with using Rend, but, like, it's not a huge deal, I don't think, but we'll see. Capacitor, slight buff. Crushing Fist's got a slight buff, but this is carryover from melee charge, I'm pretty sure. Slight buff to the total percent melee damage on the top end, though, which is interesting. Trigger debuff resist increased went up on Frenzy. Crippling Headshot now works on NPCs. Bullet resist, slight buffs. Interesting. I think Crippling Headshot's already really strong. So this is an interesting change to me, but it's only 1% per, so we'll see how it goes. Spiritual Overflow, Spiritual Lifesteal moved from active to innate and nerfed. It doesn't say that it's removing the innate duration. If it is, that's interesting and fine. But also, this is another item that's crossing boundaries. It now builds from Spirit Lifesteal. So, in place of only staying inside of the green tree with Spirit Lifesteal, the Spirit Lifesteal can now pivot into the orange tree, not red. Glass Cannon finally got a little buff. Maybe the item won't be so unpickable now. Silencer, slight nerf, makes sense. Spellslinger, slight nerf, that makes sense. Oh my goodness, how many changes are there? So many. Healing Rite, slight increase to spirit scaling. Probably okay. This might make it a little more pickable over extra regen. They're making a slight pivot on it so that your in-combat region is slightly worse, but your out-of-combat region is slightly better. The rebuttal meta, let's go. Everyone's going to be trying to spam melee on the urn to make it change sides anyways. Rebuttal's back, I guess. Debuff Reducer now grants 90 health. This is a really big buff. Debuff Reducer was pretty useless before now, and you'd usually not buy it unless you needed Unstoppable, for sure. Now this makes it a more okay item. Return Fire, slight buff. Healing Booster fixed various things not working correctly. That's good. Resto Locket no longer has a minimum, and the maximum got reduced. Another nerf to Resto Locket. Very interesting. Reactive Barrier now grants 1 out of combat region from the components. Spirit Shielding no longer grants move speed, but proc also grants 18% spirit resilience, and it's a very similar thing to weapon shielding. They're really trying to make these items not feel bad, huh? I feel like spirit shielding is going to be a lot better than weapon shielding of the two of them, but we will see. Guardian Ward got a... See, this is what I'm talking about. Guardian Ward had the 208 barrier by default. So Grit's just a better Guardian Ward, even if it's only for yourself. This means you just hold on to Grit for longer, because I feel like unless you're going to be like Paige and you just want to hold it just in case you want to go to Divine Barrier to counter like a pocket or something, you just buy Grit and just hold on to it for most of the game. But Bullet Lifesteal now grants weapon damage. Battle Vest got a buff. This is crazy, by the way. This is crazy, in my opinion. Bullet Lifesteal now granting weapon damage flat out is a crazy buff to Bullet Lifesteal. It makes the item go from a you have to buy this to get the upgrades you want to you buy it and it's good and it's the upgrade you want. Spirit Lifesteal gets more bonus health. Fury Trance also got a buff because it gets the 6% weapon damage and a slight fire rate buff, as well as a slight duration buff. Haze Main's going to be happy. Majestic Leap, barrier boon scaling up, extra air control up. Like, that's fine, but it needs a shorter cooldown. Fortitude got a buff. Veilwalker got pretty sizable buffs. Counterspell got a Spirit Power nerf. Divine Barrier is just getting the extra out of combat region that Grit gives. Juggernaut, better fire rate reduction and better move speed bonuses on the item. That's pretty cool. Spellbreaker now grants extra health. Indom now has better scaling, better out of combat region, and better spirit and bullet resist. This is making the item look better and better by the patch, I tell you what. Witchmail got a slight buff. Unstop got a slight buff. Infuser got a slight nerf, but it gains 6 spirit power, so I think it's a pretty fair trade-off. Vamp Burst got a slight buff to its duration, and now gets the 6% weapon damage that the other items give it. This is another thing that I think is pretty crazy. If you're a Vamp Burst character, that 6% weapon damage carries over onto both Fury Trance and Vamp Burst. And Leech just got updates to match the components. Golden Goose Egg, permanent buff from every 100 souls to every 80. Oh no, Goose Egg back? Goose Egg back? Egg Games? Egg Games. Slight buff to Mystic Regen. Slight buff to Rusted Barrel. Cold Front getting a pretty sizable nerf to the radius at default, but the height goes up by a lot. Bullet Resist Shredder no longer gives bonus health, but it has better bullet resist, and it has 9% weapon damage. Man, what are they doing with the balance this patch? They're just letting everything go everywhere. This is going to make Geist players happy, in a way, because Geist's build is getting kind of shifted around by a lot of these things, but Geist likes bullet resist Shredder if they're going even remotely M1. So this is really good for Geist. I can tell you that much. Mystic Slow has more bonus health than before. Arcane Surge fixed various interaction bugs. Surge of Power is a slight buff. Same with Spirit Snatch. The Spirit Power Steal is a huge deal, but this is a kind of small for the Spirit scaling, but it's probably still good. Decay buff, 2 seconds. Disarming Hex, very slight buff, 0.25 seconds longer. Slight buff to Torment Pulse, more melee resist. Duration increase on the regen, on Radiant Regen, to max, I believe, Mystic Regen. Rapid Recharge, we're back, baby. 14 spirit power for the charged ability, up from 10. Magic Carpet now innately grants minus 15% gravity and 25% air control. That's weird, man. I kind of dig it, though. Arctic Blast. Slow targets now their stamina regen frozen. That's a big deal. That's a really big buff to Arctic Blast. The item for quite a while there was, if you don't want to sell Cold Front, you could upgrade to it eventually for a bigger damage buff, but it wasn't that crazy. But that's a pretty big deal. No stamina regen for 4 seconds is a big deal. The radius got buffed by 4 meters by default. They also buffed the height. Am I crazy? Didn't they just... Yeah, okay, they nerfed Cold Fronts, and then they buffed Arctic Blasts. They're making the upgrade a lot better. No longer does the damage amp, though, but it does boost the immobilize. So they're taking away the damage amp and giving it a lot of other really good things. They're taking the item away from being a super bursty item, where Calico uses it and explodes someone, to just generally being a good CC slow the enemy team item. Focus Lens, slight buff. Scourge, slight buff. Mercurial Magnum, very small buff, but this will add up to a lot. Kind of confused, because Merc Mag is seeing a lot of play, especially on, like, Wraith, and... well, I guess that's just interesting. We'll see how that goes. Vortex Orb fixed the debuff, losing gravity modification when upgraded from Slowing Hex? I think that's a buff. So, we're going to read through all the hero changes now, because this video wasn't long enough. Goodness gracious, Yoshi, what are we cooking over there? Infernal Resilience changed from extra health regen to 200 max health. That's a really solid 1-point investment. T2 changed from 200 to 18% melee lifesteal? 40% effective versus non-heroes, I guess, to make sure it's balanced. That's kind of wild. But yeah, like this 1.5 regen on the T1 upgrade was not worth your time. 200 max health is worth your time. So as make impact T2 increased from 0.7 to 0.8. I guess I'll have to try out Abrams now. And the T3 unstop duration increased from 5 to 6. Wow. I think these are really big upgrades to Abrams. I think that a slight stun duration is more than you think. The unstop duration is also more than you think. This, I think, has potential to be kind of busted on Abrams, but we'll see how it goes. Improved the hero's hitboxes, easier to hit. All right, I guess we're nerfing Apollo immediately. Base regen reduced. Riposte no longer automatically dashes? Man, am I glad I wasn't already recording my Apollo guide before this update came out. Holy cow. So you no longer auto dash out of it. It now grants you a sub ability immediately to target the hero you want to jump to for a brief duration. You target the enemy before the parry to buffer it. Cast range is 25 meters. So Riposte is no longer a get out of jail free card that just dashes wherever you want to. It grants you immediately an ability that targets the hero you want to jump to and stun them. But you can target the enemy before the parry to buffer it. For 25 meters, which will probably get affected by greater expansion. Wow, that's a really big rework to Riposte. It no longer triggers on damage auras either for like probably Flame Dash and then probably Torment Pulse. No longer triggers off of objective damage, and Flawless Advance has a slightly smaller... This is a really big nerf to Apollo. These are really, really big nerfs to Apollo, in my opinion. I think the Riposte change is going to take the character from being busted good and really easy to play to you have to really know what you're doing with Riposte now, because you're going to end up dashing in on people. We've nerfed Bebop's gun. We are happy to see it. We have nerfed Bebop's gun again. We are happy to see it. We have buffed Bebop's bomb. We are not happy to see it. Billy, slight increase to health per boon, probably because of all the nerfs to health per boon. Bullet damage per boon reduced. Makes sense. Billy's gun is pretty strong for a while there. Slight nerf to Rising Ram, but we got slight buffs to the T2 and T3. Calico Gloom Bomb T2 changed from 75 damage to barriers to minus 5% melee resist per bomb. Wow. So Calico is definitely going all in on being melee now, is what I'm reading here. This is a big change to make them very melee focused. Celeste made them easier to hit. We love to see it. Stamina cooldown increased. Oh my goodness, they can't bounce around as easily? Let's go. Radiant Daggers got a big ass buff though. Whoa. Like a big ass buff. 10 extra damage and 4 extra cooldown off of the ability is crazy. 20 extra damage on Shining Wonder is not as much to write home about because this ability is already stupid strong. So like 20 extra base damage isn't that crazy, but these are huge nerfs. Huge nerfs. These are pretty solid buffs. Well, we'll see how all of this goes. Called Bell got a 0.5 meter radius nerf. Called Bell got its radius back at max rank, though. Reduction to spirit scaling. So it no longer gives you a massive 100% accuracy debuff for the second. It's now just an inaccuracy debuff for 40% for the full 4 seconds. Interesting. Doorway's close sub ability now starts on cooldown for 8 seconds. So we're making it so that you can't close doors as quickly? Which is an interesting choice, but I think this is to help with the doorman who will try and jump in to steal mid-boss to then close the door after shoving all of you out of it. But we'll see. Doorway is no longer unsilenceable. And fixed a recent bug causing a luggage cart to not be dispelled. Ren T3 no longer increases scaling by 0.4 for Drifter, and Ren Tier 3 but now also deals heavy melee damage. We're making Drifter a little more melee focused, it seems. Dynamo, Kinetic Pulse T2 reduced the bullet resisted grant, so it's 3% down from what it used to be. And the Spirit scaling, just in general, is getting reduced by 0.1 here. Quantum Integument T3 changed from dispelling non-ult debuffs to reducing the duration by 50%. Thank God. Sorry, this is a really big nerf that I'm really happy to see. It was crazy that they made it so that Victor couldn't cleanse debuffs in one patch, and then either in the same or one patch later, Dynamo got the ability to do it for their whole damn team. Really, really solid nerf. Really solid. Graves. Oh boy. Graves needs some help, apparently. Sprint speed increased from 1.6 to 2.2, so they're faster. Grasping Hand now spawns a ghoul at base, but the T3 pushes it back to 2, so we're undoing an old nerf by making it stronger earlier. Updated dash ranges for deadheads to be calculated from the center of Graves when they are following her. That's kind of cool. I think it means that they're more likely to fight closer to you. The fixed fire rates buff the deadheads not being applied to their next attack, but only on subsequent attacks. This buffs heroic aura Graves. Fixed deadheads being able to dash through veils. This makes it so that veils aren't an insta get out of jail free card from Graves. Fixed deadheads being unable to dash towards the very end of your attack range when they're in follow mode. Once again, this is just kind of buffing deadheads in general. Deadheads damage taken from bullets being unaffected by fall off. Oh, so you can't shoot them from the other end of the map for free anymore. You have to actually be a little closer. Interesting. At a 0.1 second buffer duration for deadheads losing line of sight before they stop following an enemy. Interesting, slight buff. Deadheads becoming inactive if Graves dives while they are following her. So now if Graves dives while the deadheads are following you, they can still attack stuff near your dead spot. They did overall reduce the spirit scaling, but from the sounds of it, they are much better dealing damage now. They increase the speed and acceleration of deadheads only when they're following Graves, so not a combat buff. Fix certain projectiles colliding with deadheads. Update Graves' melee to also set the dash target for deadheads. That's nice. But as a result of all of these buffs to Spirit Graves, bullet damage and growth is being reduced by 10% across the board, which makes sense. Graves does... If we're going to buff their obnoxious-ass deadheads who steal all of your weapon damage, and they're giving Graves another free ghoul early game, we need to nerf the weapon damage in general. I'm pretty okay with this, if a tiny bit sad about it, but overall, it's all good. This is good. This, in my opinion, will make Graves a more interesting character from the get-go for most people, and is less of a, haha, I hold M1 while I get free bullets touching people. Great talent changes. Reign of Arrows cooldown buffed by a lot, and the Castellet buffed by a lot. The duration got nerfed by 3 full seconds, though. But better air movement. Stamina distance change from being -9% to +25. Nerfed the weapon damage on it. T1 changed from -14 seconds cooldown to +3 weapon damage, 30% slow. And then they changed the T2. So they're just kind of nerfing Rain of Arrows across the board, which kind of makes sense because it's obnoxious in very certain situations, but the rest of the time it's kind of worthless because the character doesn't really function around Rain of Arrows. But I'm a little confused as to where this came from. Were people complaining about Grey Talon and I missed it? I don't know. I don't think it's a bad change. I think it's just an odd change. Haze, fixation T3 increased. Slight buffs, we like it. Holiday, base bullet buff by a lot, and health regen buffed literally 100%. Nice. Infernus, bullet size increased. Maybe I won't miss all my bullets on Infernus anymore. And then a slight buff to the concussive combustion tier 3. Kelvin, Frost Grenade Spirit scaling nerfed again. Kelvin when interrupted on Ice Path no longer creates an Ice Path below him. Instead lets him fall to the ground. This is nice. This is really nice. Really, really nice. It's kind of frustrating to be able to stun a Kelvin out of their Ice Path and then they just get to stay up in the sky. They also nerfed the Arctic Beam DPS Spirit scaling, which I'm pretty okay with. The ability is kind of obnoxious in the mid game. So just overall nerfing it by a pretty large factor here because it's DPS, you know, it's the damage per second spirit scaling. This is nice. Kelvin's pretty obnoxious right now. I'll take a nerf. Oh, rest in peace, Gunlash. We love you, Gunlash. We're nerfing your bullet damage. We're rebuffing the ground strike damage per meter, spirit scaling, though. Grapple bonus T2 no longer stacks with itself, but instead refreshes, which makes sense. It was kind of busted. If you could double stack this on one person and your gun would obliterate them, it was pretty silly. Grapple T3 grants a charge. That's really nice. That is a really big change. That means that you don't have to have charges late game. If you don't have to buy extra charge or rapid recharge late game to have 2 charges on your grapple. That's really nice. I really like that. That's a really good quality of life change for Lash. I'm very happy to see it. McGinnis, bullet damage per boon increased. Fixed heavy barrage not triggering diviners, damn. And we buffed Medicinal Spectre. Cool. Mina, innate minus 8% minus debuff resist. Damn. Rip Mina. Fixed rake sometimes not working with high ping. That's nice. Love Bites T3 increased from -4 to -5. That's pretty nice. That's a pretty big buff. Love Bites no longer applies flat damage on hit. Love Bites no longer applies the flat on-hit damage to abilities. It was doing 20% of its value on Nox Nostra. So that sounds like Nox Nostra is getting another nerf. And this is also another nerf to Nox Nostra. Interesting. Updated Gensmark visuals. I can't wait to see those. I bet they're really cool. You hear the melee no longer knocks you up when you're burrowed. That's a good change. Sandblast buff, don't need it, but we'll take it. It's fine. Bookworm from -8 to -12 at T2. Rallying Charge gets more damage at T3. No longer has half its cooldown if it hits no allies or enemies. So if you just hard whiff, they're just giving you the damn ult back. This is a pity mechanic. I don't hate it. It's just really funny. One final thing on the rallying charge thing. I bet this is also to make you feel better about when you throw it across the map and miss. Moving on. Paradox. Time wall T1 duration increased. Time wall T3 charges increased, and now you get 3 by default. And the charge delay got buffed. So you can throw out walls all the damn time at T3. Nice. If you heard that was the dog, I apologize. Kinetic Carbine T3 increased from +50% to +55% max damage scaling. But we also got a buff to Paradoxical. Oh, I thought that was a nerf. That's a buff. Wow. All right, Paradox is better across the board. We love to see it. As a Paradox enjoyer, I'm happy. Pocket Flying Cloak T2 weapon damage duration reduced from 8 to 6. So that's, yeah. Pocket needed a very minor nerf, I think. Pocket's very strong right now, and the Affliction cooldown at base going up is also fine. Pocket's really, really strong right now, so this makes sense. All right, Rem, that's a big set of changes. Pillow Toss charge time reduced, and they buffed the T3 damage increase. Tag Along Burst Heal also applies to secondary allies that you jump to. I don't know if we need that type of buff to Rem, but okay. Lingering heal duration reduced from 3 to 2 seconds, but the values were rebalanced, so you will heal people faster and you're out of the fight for less time. They buffed the bonuses that you get from Tag Along T2, which is really nice. It increases missing health heal from 0.03 to 0.05 in region per second from 0.6. So we're just buffing Tag Along across the board. Goodness. Can be cast through Veils. This is a fine change. I don't hate this one. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the rest of these, but this one's totally fine. It was kind of obnoxious that you couldn't do it through Veils to your teammates. You can see them on the map anyways. You know they're there. Reduce lockout period after ejecting from Tag Along from 1 to 0.3. Very slight buff to getting knocked out of your thing. The fly to your ally time is faster. This is probably also to help when someone jumped on a zipline and ran away and you were trying to chase them and you couldn't catch up. Tag Along heal duration is displayed on the HUD as well as the health bar icon. Fixed specific abilities as can kill Ren while he's napping. You do get affected by friendly auras. That's interesting. Tag Along eject is no longer affected by debuff resistance and now launches upwards slightly more to prevent hitting the ground. No longer briefly restricts movement abilities and input, and nap time now provides 30% damage reduction in the base ability, and the T3 still adds 50%. Jesus. So Rem's just better. I don't know if we needed that, but I'm glad to see that they at least didn't buff the minions again. 7. Bullet damage growth got nerfed. Oh my goodness, this is the first 7 nerf I've seen in a hot minute. The crit reduction, so once again, 7's stupid sombrero is saving their life. Shiv, Slice and Dice T2, reduced from -8% to -6%, slight nerf. Bloodletting got a slight nerf as well, but it got rebuffed at the final rank to basically make it back to even at T3. Killing Blow cooldown reduced. Oh, sorry, but that is not a buff, that is a nerf, sorry. It's the cooldown of the ability, so it's actually 20 seconds longer before you get it back again. The full rage damage bonus got a slight nerf as well, but you get it back at the T2, and the Killing Blow T2 also reduces the cooldown by 30 seconds, which makes it slightly better. It'll be going from 105 to 95 once you get the T2. This is them going, we know no one levels Killing Blow at the moment. Maybe we should make you level it sooner. It's just a general nerf to Shiv before they get to the end of the game. That's what all of this is. Because everyone levels the 1 into the 2, so the Shivs into Slice and Dice, these slight nerfs are basically them going, Shiv's Bloodletting and Killing Blow is too strong at base level. We're giving you a reason to potentially level it sooner. Silver. They can shoot slightly faster, but their DPS should be the same. Tangling Bullet now prevents you from jumping or mantling. Good. Faster cooldown over duration. I like this. I think that the duration was kind of obnoxious. But yeah, bringing it back at T3 is fine, in my opinion. Them only having to put 2 points into Entangling Bola to make it last way too long was really silly. Them having to make you max it to get the extra duration, totally fine, in my opinion. Lycan Curse fire rate reduced, so it is no longer near as fast to just chomp through people. And the fire rate spirit scaling got increased as a result, so now you're basically being told you need to build a little bit of spirit power, just like Haze, in order to get the best out of Lycan Curse. Venator, we are much beefier. Oh my goodness. 830 health at base and 48 per boon, up from 790 and 43. We are a frontliner on Venator now. Oh my goodness. Hexline Snap Trap increased from 20% to 30% against targets, and you also get an extra charge at max rank. That's kind of nice. I don't hate that. I think that this is the big thing from the Venator changes, though. I think Venator was already being forced into being a frontliner and wasn't really an M1 carry. They were the type of character that wanted to buy Colossus and get in the get in the middle of things. This makes them actually able to do that in the same way that like Abrams wants to do that. This is good for Venator, in my opinion. Victor, we are nerfing Victor. Jumpstart, we are nerfing. Oh, we are buffing Victor. Sorry. We are making it slightly better spirit scaling so that you kind of want to build more spirit items for Jumpstart. Aura of Suffering does 50% damage to objectives. We are nerfing Victor. Wallbreaker Victor, goodbye. You were nice while you lasted. Puddle Punch Tier 1 also increases damage by 20. T2 no longer increases by 30 though, so it's better at T1, worse at T2. But T2 also grants 40% melee lifesteal. Nice. Or, well, it's technically not melee lifesteal, it's just 40% lifesteal to the ability, so I guess it's like a combo. of spirit and melee lifesteal. Still good though, still really good. Viper, slight buff? Slight buff to Screwdrab Dagger? I don't know that Viper needs any buffs, but okay. Warden, bullet damage per boon reduced. Okay. Willpower T3 debuff resistance now retroactively applies to existing debuffs when cast. I mean, that's just parity across the board, I guess. And Binding Word no longer increases cast range by 12 meter at T2. You really need to build range on Warden if you want to do it. You could probably put you could put Ballistic Enchantment on it now, I guess. Yamato, Power Slash postcast time reduced. Power Slash spirit scaling buff. Flying Slash range increase. No longer gives the cast range. It's on the ability at base now. Oh, wait, no, sorry. It gives a little more, but the T3 is what gives the cast range now. I'm trying to get through this quickly because we're almost there. But I'm trying not to mess it up either. Flying Slash, just slight adjustment. It's basically the same. Just gives extra charges at max rank. 3 total charges instead of 2 from the looks of it. That's nice. Fixed Crimson Slash not being able to hit anything if the player aimed too low or high. Well, we appreciate that, I guess. And Shadow Transformation Tier 1 is now 7 extra weapon damage, up from 5. That's okay. It's a slight buff. We like it. Well, that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed me yapping about patch notes. And I hope to catch y'all in the next one.